What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Convicted Podcast. My name is Ryan, and we have been gone for some time due to all the stuff that's been going on over the past couple of years, but we are back now with some awesome interviews, and I really think this has got some good information that if all bands start applying these things, that we're going to start seeing the music industry become better and better and better. But right now, we got a clip from the person that we're interviewing, so let's check it out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Convicted Podcast. I know it's been quite some time since we released one. There's just been a lot that's going on. If you didn't notice, there was a pandemic and everything that happened, and that kind of shut down touring for a while. But now that touring is opening back up, we really want to get back onto the Convicted Podcast to be able to help more bands become better, more professional, and be ready to go out there into the world of the music industry. So real quick, just announcement, we're going to be having a Battle of the Bands, several Battle of the Bands as preliminaries, 4 of them to be exact, and then we're going to have a finals event through January and February, and all of this is to get people to play at Ink the Bay. We also got a ton of other prizes. The grand prizes, or the grand prize alone is over $2K. And we got runner-up prizes, and then everyone that's going to be playing, every band gets like a swag bag and all sorts of stuff. If you want to check out more about that, you can go to convictedprinting.com/slaythebay. And no, I know it's been Christmas and we're not talking about that slay. We're talking about slaying your enemies in this Battle of the Bands. Slay the Bay. But yeah, so today I have with me Shawn from Dead Wing Recordings. He's one of the sponsors for the Ink the Bay, Slay the Bay that we're going to be having. So Shawn, would you mind introducing everybody? What is Dead Wing Recordings? What do you guys do? What do you guys stand for? Just tell us kind of your story.
Yeah. So, I want to start off by saying thanks, Brian and Convicted, for having me on. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to get together and have a couple beers and chat.
Absolutely.
So, Dead Wing Recordings is my recording studio. So it's deeply rooted in the Florida hardcore and metalcore scenes. That's where I, started playing in bands and realized that I had a love for recording. So, I started my own little studio right out of my bedroom, and now I actually do have my own facility where we create music, and I primarily work with everything from really anything with a guitar, or even I've recently ventured into hip hop and stuff like that, but mainly deeply rooted in rock and roll, metal, hardcore, you name it. Yeah, we've even had a little bit of country music come out of the studio. So
for sure.
Yeah, man. But yeah, definitely heavily rooted in rock and roll. If it's got loud amps and slamming drums and stuff, I'm about it. So
excellent.
Yeah,
for sure. And where can people find out more about Dead Wing Recordings?
So we've got all of the socials up. We've got an Instagram page, DW_recordings. I am also on TikTok, which I'm trying to post there a little bit more now.
I saw one today that you made.
Yep. So that's also Dead Wing Recordings. You can find it there. And then I also have a website, deadwingrecordings.com.
Excellent.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And of course, put it on your fucking Facebook, So yeah, I got a Facebook.
For sure. Quick side note.
So you mentioned drop us a thumbs up.
Yes. So quick side note, you mentioned about being on TikTok and trying to post the videos on there. And I just want to stop and say for a second, again, bands, if you are not on TikTok, you're missing a great opportunity right now. TikTok used to be Musical.ly. It's a music-based app. People share music on there all the time. There's a better organic reach on there right now than you're going to experience on Facebook, Instagram, etc. If you have any gifts of you playing a live show that you can put your music over, or if you have a music video, you can clip it out or whatever, just whatever you do, just start putting some stuff on there if you really want people to check out your music and to listen to what you have. And I really think that that's a way for you to get out there more. But yeah, so like I said earlier, Shawn is going to be sponsoring the Slay the Bay. He's one of our sponsors. We also got Bradham, we got Santoku Media, and we got Convicted Printing, of course, that's us. Uh, and so the goal that we're going to have is we're going to have several bands play at each of the preliminaries, and then we have judges, including Shawn, and at least one person from each of those sponsors, because we all are involved heavily in the music industry in some way, shape, or form. Most of us have been in bands that have been touring. Like even Thomas from Vradam has been internationally touring before, so like he brings even a different level of stuff to bring to the table for judging. And we built a rubric together. Everyone kind of put something together. And so tonight we're going to go over what Shawn is bringing to the table with this. And specifically, he's going to be focusing on a lot of what's going on with the sound side, what's going on with the tech of that. So Shawn, why don't you go ahead and start us off with what we've got going on here? What are you going to be judging everyone on? And also, this is not just for the Slay the Bay. If you're a band and you're listening to this, you're going to want to apply these things, because the better of a band you become in all of these areas that we're going to be talking about, the better you're going to have a chance to continue to grow in the music industry. So if you want to just like hang in local shows and just stay local, whatever, maybe you don't have to apply so much of this, but I still think it would give you even more opportunities locally if you start applying everything we're going to be discussing. So Shawn, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. So basically, you know, what I'm going to be looking for is I'm going to be looking for your live show, the cohesiveness of your live show. I'm going to be trying to dive into even some of your songwriting a little bit. And we'll dive deeper into these topics as we go through this conversation here, of course. But yeah, going into the songwriting, does your song have structure, or is it just what I like to call, Finn McKenty, if anyone follows the punk rock MBA, he coined the term riff salad. So is the song cohesive? Does it make sense to the listener? So overall musicianship, I mean, is your band tight? You know, is the drummer playing in time? Is the bass player locked in with the drummer? You know, tight rhythm section. If you're playing with, you know, click tracks, stuff like that, are you guys on time with the clicks? Are you guys, you know, are those bass drops for your breakdowns hitting when they're supposed to, you know?
Oh yeah, that's always been rough whenever you've been at a show.
Oh, it's a
and
challenge.
Then one guitarist like starts early, or the vocalist is too late, or it's rough.
Yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, yeah, I'm looking for an overall performance. I want to see the best performance that your band can possibly give. So that being said, Ryan, I'm gonna kind of just let you take the wheel here and kind of, you know, just let me know what you want to talk about and stuff like that.
Let's chop some of these up a little bit more. Of course. So the first one that you have here says live stage sound, specifically like stage volume. Now, I understand that we can only, as bands, we can only control our stage volume to a certain extent, and some of the rest of it kind of is in the hands of the tech guy, which is why you always want to be good friends with the tech, and we're going to be talking about that on a different podcast. Yes, always be friends with him or her. So how can a band get better at live stage? How can they be more aware about their live stage sound?
I think a lot of it is a balance of being able to play to the room that you're in. Okay, so for any of the listeners not very familiar with the Tampa Bay area, there's a venue called the Noise Box. Okay. Which Ryan and some of the boys at Convicted Printing are very familiar with. I've played shows there myself, and there's two different rooms. Well, three, but we'll say two for the sake of this. So basically, there's a big room and a small room. Okay, the small room is the size of a classroom for preschoolers. Okay, it is.
And that's what we act like when we're there.
And so the idea is that when you're playing the small room, your amp is not going to be as loud as it would be in the big room, right? And I mean, even the extent of the big room too. Is your guitar mic'd up? If your guitar is mic'd up, how hard are you pushing it? How loud is your stage volume in comparison to, in comparison to the room that you're playing in? All right.
Right.
One of the best bands that I've ever seen in the small room at the Noise Box, also called The Hole in the Wall. Look it up on YouTube. There's some wild stuff that's happened in that room. But one of the best bands that I've seen play in that room was a band called Gut Check. They had went into the room and they turned their amps down, and everything was clean. I could hear the vocalist, I could hear both guitars, the lead and the rhythm, I could hear the bass, and I could hear the drum set. Okay. Even though we're in a little tiny room, I could hear everything, and I think there's something to be said about a band that can walk into a room like that and go, yeah, we want to be loud, we want to be heavy, but we also want to have balance, because there's things that the listener needs to hear. Right.
You don't want to be just a wall of noise. You want to be articulated, whatever you're playing. But yeah, so I mean, that's something that we've had to try to balance, even as Fourth Teller. When we were on tour, we were in all sorts of rooms. Every night could have been a different size. Every night could have been all your amps are mic'd, none of your amps are mic'd. You can have direct in, you can't have direct in. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can kind of say, what's a general rule of thumb? Like, if you're walking into a place, how do you, like, from the stage sound wise, how do you go, okay, hold on, we're gonna we know what size this room is, we're gonna turn it down, we're gonna turn it up,
I think a lot of that comes with knowing the tech that you're knowing the technology that you're working with, as well as, because there's a lot of variables in this. So knowing that, and then also knowing, having chemistry with your band, right? So, you're going to play clubs where, the sound guy he's done his job and he's done a fantastic job, but, sometimes you're not going to be able to hear something right out of the kicker right in front of you, right? So maybe you want a little bit more stage volume from your other guitar player, right? Just so you can hear it. Okay. Because that's another thing too, is you got to be able to hear each other. I've played countless shows where, I couldn't hear what our other guitar player and Deadwing was doing, and I wish he had turned the stage volume up a little bit. Now if you're using in-ear monitors and stuff, that opens, of course, a whole new world, right? Because you can have a fine-tuned mix. Everyone can have their own individual mix right in their ears, but it's kind of knowing what you want, right? What's going to make you play your best? Is it having more of the bass in there? Is it having more of the drums? What do you like? But if you're not playing with in-ears, I think it's, there's something to be said about just during your quick little sound check, even if you got 10 minutes, just play something together, just a quick riff or something, and make sure everything sounds balanced. I mean, you don't have to be an audio wizard, to go, hey, I think we could use a little bit more bass, or hey, I think that lead guitar could come down a little bit, it's a little harsh.
Definitely. Yeah. To tag on to what you're saying about play a little riff, and this won't work at every venue you play at, because sometimes your sound check is literally cut because maybe the band before you was playing too long, or maybe the sound tech is upset because of something that happened earlier, whether it's your band or someone else's, that might come out against you. That's why it's also important to be friends with everybody as much as possible, not in a cheesy way, but just
just be cordial, be respectful. Right.
But yeah, the riff thing. So if you could have a 30-second piece of a song that you guys know, every time we have the opportunity, we're playing this because that's how we're going to do our sound check and levels.
And it doesn't have to be an original either. It can be whatever you want it to be. It could just be strumming on one chord, and I mean, guitar players also, something that I've noticed, this is just an opinion of mine, when you play live, if you like a scoop sound, like a scoop mid, bring your mid up just a little bit, okay? Because it'll allow that guitar to cut in its pocket, where the guitar lives, right? You scoop all the mids out, now the guitar is occupying the high and the low, and taking up the vocal space and the bass space, especially if you're playing in low tunings like A sharp, G, and lower.
For sure. Definitely. So yeah, that sounds like it's really good for that. And if you hear anything during this podcast and you have questions or want to discuss it more, please feel free to leave comments or to message either of us so we can discuss it further, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, email, whatever it is. Always feel free to reach out. So if you have questions and you want to discuss it further, we would like to be able to do that. And we may even be able to have some podcast that's literally just a Q&A type session podcast that we just start answering all these, especially if we see some come in frequently. All right, so the next one that Shawn has down here is songwriting. He mentioned earlier about making sure it doesn't sound like just riff salad with a bunch of stuff just slapped together, and it's like, how is this a song? So yeah, definitely like the cohesiveness, like being able to make sure like, oh, I can tell where the song is going.
Yeah, so with that, like, as when you start like in your first band, or you start writing your own songs and stuff like that, I mean, that stuff's gonna happen. You're not gonna write the perfect song overnight, and I'm not looking for perfection here. Music is subjective. I mean, there are even the most progressive of progressive musicians that that write stuff like that and it just works. So it's not that I'm like looking for the pop music like verse chorus bridge final chorus song ends, right, with 4 chords and that's it. Like, no, I want to see creativity, but I want the song to have a flow, right? Like to be able to distinguish the flow, like, okay, where are we in the song, right? Have I heard this theme before?
Yep.
Like that main riff you introduced, are you going to use that creatively somewhere else in the song? Is the breakdown, is this supposed to be the bridge? Is this supposed to be, yeah, I kind of want like a roadmap in a way of like being able to decipher the roadmap for myself, and go, okay, oh, I've heard this theme before, or oh, this is a new theme,
I definitely think one of my favorite things when I'm hearing music is like you hear this like really sick riff and then it goes away for a while and then all of a sudden they go into this like really heavy breakdown and it's like it's in the background but slower,
right,
but it's there, the elements, and it's like, wow,
but it's in the background. They give you just that little taste and you're like, ooh, I like that.
Not that it has to be like that in every song or anything like that, but like it's sometimes theme, you can play with an element. Yeah, you can definitely like really, you can fill up like almost a whole song based on one riff.
Yeah.
And you just start like seeing how you can like toy with it and mold it and make it something else.
Oh, definitely.
And so let's go on to the next one here. So you already mentioned about musicianship. Like, is everyone tight? Is everyone on time? Is everyone in tune? Is another important one.
Oh,
but I wanted to amplify one of them that you said, which was talking about dynamics. And the reason why is because you and I talked back and forth about this before we wrote this down. And like we were talking about how hard or soft you might hit the drums, play that chord, whatever. Dynamics are important. It's like how loud you play something or how hard you play it versus how soft. And like certain parts need certain dynamics.
In my opinion, behind staying in tune, which I'll get to in a second about how important that is. But in my opinion, the ability to play with dynamics takes your band from here to here. Okay. And it is kind of difficult because we do play in a heavier genre of music with very loud guitars, loud amps, everything's loud and heavy, right? Rock and roll.
Yep.
But we're talking about more than that. You can still, even if with your amp at 10, you can still play with dynamics. Guitar players, pick attack. How hard are you hitting those strings, right? Is it just a nice part where you're just supposed to be strumming chords? You don't have to be beating the shit out of the strings. And yes, you do want to put on an amazing show, but work on that a little bit. Maybe when you're really getting into it, bring the pick attack a little bit back. just a little bit back, but keep that energy, right? It's a fine
Definitely.
balance, but and then when you hit that breakdown, you hit that, that real gnarly riff, and you really just want to start slamming them. That's when you can, that's your forte, that's your fortissimo. You're nailing them, right? Same
That's
with
when
the
you
drums
start
too.
punching the guitar.
Yes, exactly. So that's when you get violent, right?
Yes.
We do just, so
sometimes
right,
no
exactly.
kidding, if you're really into it, because that's a nice show.
Been hardcore shows, we know.
Definitely.
But I think and then on the same token there with drummers and and vocalists too. Drummers, how hard do you hit your drums, right? When you hit that gnarly part in the song, yeah, go to town, but when you come back, and maybe drummers especially here too, when the rhythm section starts to shine, if there's a bass break or something like that, play to complement the other musician. If there's a vocal break, play to complement the vocalist. And that should be whole band, actually, now that I think about
Absolutely.
it.
Is there a certain element that's supposed to shine at this moment, and not in the same way of like, oh, those crazy guitar solos from back in the day or whatever, which are totally fine, but
right.
There's ways to let certain instruments or certain band members stand out properly at the right time.
Right, exactly. I mean, so when that ripping guitar solo comes in and your lead guitar player is melting faces, okay, the rhythm guitar player might come back a little bit on his pick attack, right? So that way the chord kind of blends in with what the bass is doing and also what the drums are doing. The drummers might come back a little bit off the drums. He's still playing hard, it's still heavy music, but he's not beating the ever living hell out of his cymbals,
exactly,
or a snare drum, right?
Oh yeah.
And same with the bass player, bass players, man, if you can get in the pocket, with your rhythm section or with your drummer, I mean, that's worth its weight in gold,
for sure.
Having a great rhythm section, we were talking about bringing the band here. Now you're up here because you have a very strong pocket, and a local band that does that really well is Malice Strikes. Their rhythm section between Kevin and Mike is just rock solid. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. So shouts out to those guys. Love you, miss you. So being in tune is a big one for cleanliness of your tone as a band. Tune between songs, even I've tuned within a song before. If I had a part where I might have had like 2 bars and I just had to tweak a string real quick, I mean, you can use your ear, and then, put the bypass on, hit the tuner real quick, make your little minor adjustment, hit it back in, you're ready to go.
Yep.
But when you're in tune, all those sound waves align, and it creates almost like it creates a much fuller sound.
Heavenly atmosphere.
Yes. If you go on TikTok, I follow this, like, they're like professional marching bands. Okay. And they do this warm up. Oh yeah. They do their warm up routine. And not only are they using dynamics, but they will do this where they play a dissonant chord as a band, and it just sounds like a bunch of noise. And then they resolve into a major chord, and the band sounds 10 times louder just because they're all in tune with each other. They're all within that same musical idea, that chord, right? You don't have those half step dissonance or anything like that.
Definitely.
And so, or even just sense off, right? So being in tune is, huge. Make sure all your tuners are set to whatever, whatever hertz you guys are using. So if it's 440, stay to 440. I don't really know anyone that goes off of that. Maybe Zeppelin back in the day. I think they're like, perhaps. I know Zeppelin tuned like a quarter down or something like that. It's been a while. I can't remember what it was, but they were like a quarter step off standard or something. It was really strange.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Huh.
So, and Quiet Riot used to do that too, because if you try to play Mental Health, like I tried covering it when I was a teenager one time. I'm like, why isn't this in tune? And I'm like, oh, they tune slightly lower. Like it's
Because
just
they're not in tune on purpose. They're in tune for being off
right.
tune.
They're in tune, but not in tune to 440. So yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
just odd, you know.
So, and one thing I want to say to anyone that's like, how do I keep it in tune? I play like crazy. Is like, so something that we did whenever we were on tour is in between every song, there was usually a little bit of talking to be able to keep the crowd engaged and like also to say, hey, we're fourth teller or whatever, you know, like announce our name, because that's something you should be doing too, is let people know, who are you? Because if at the end of the set they're like, you sounded awesome, I have no idea who you are, that doesn't help. So announce your name like every time. But anyways, so in between we had someone bass rhythm play a chord out with the drums, ta 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 ta, like we're fourth ta 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 ta, whatever. But someone else is like tuning every time that's happening, so that way we can like be in tune, like ready to go on the next song. So if you can, in between songs, even if you have to take turns every other song or something, that's when you can really tune and not do it live to where people can hear you going bah, bah, da, da, like,
Well,
like
I will say, you know, if let's put it this way, okay. In my first couple bands, all I had was a clip-on tuner. Okay, I didn't have my pedal tuner that I have now, and so it didn't. Of course, it didn't have any bypass. It was a clip-on tuner, right? And so, I mean, there's still something to be said about being in tune, right? I mean, you know, if you do have to do that, like, that's fine. You know, I would much rather see a band on stage that maybe takes a second and they do that. It might be a little bit awkward, you know, compared to what we're used to seeing in large venues and stuff like that. But I mean, you know,
it's still better
if you're
than
a
not doing
local
it.
band and you're starting out and that's what you got, man, use
Right.
it. You know, no one's gonna judge you for that. And if they do, they need
If they do,
rocks.
they're not your friends.
They need to
like,
kick
don't worry about
rocks.
that.
Like, I mean, you're on stage, you're giving a show, and you got to sound your best. If it's going to take you 2 seconds and I got to hear an E string just, I mean, I can live with it, you know, like, don't fiddle with it for 5 minutes. I mean, but you know, like, if you could just put it in 2, you know,
Perfection is a range.
So,
you know.
Yeah. And back to that, you know, you made a good point, and I want to jump back to the live stage sound real quick. Okay. Just because stage show is important, and I know this kind of blends in with what some of the other judges are going to be basing, you know, their judging off of. But you know, make it entertaining, make it different, a little bit different than the album. You know, you don't have to play exactly what you wrote on the album track for track for track. Like, if there's a cool bridge where you can just keep that going for another 8 to 16 bars and you get the hands clapping and, you know, and stuff like that, or you bring back a breakdown but slower, which is like the classic hardcore kid move, which we all love.
Absolutely.
That's how venue walls get blown apart.
Yep.
You know, like, do it. You know, I mean, we're there. These people that are going to be attending the Battle of the Bands have all paid their hard-earned money to come see you, right?
Yep.
And I mean, even if it's a $5 ticket, they still paid $5 and maybe a 10 for merch, or 20 for merch, or 30 for merch, you know,
and their time.
And their time, right? They could be doing something else. We're entertainers, you know, at the end of the day. And so give us a show, you know, get the crowd involved. And yes, back to your point about the talking as well, when you're, you know, announcing, that's your brand, right? That's your brand. I mean, you don't, you know, yeah, tell them every chance you get. Yeah, we're fourth teller. Yeah, we're Dead Wing. You know, if you're hopping in now, just, you know, we're Dead Wing. You know, make sure that your vocalist is clear and concise on the microphone. He's not covering it up like this. Okay.
That's the
I know
worst.
this looks cool, but this is an audio engineer's worst nightmare. Okay.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh,
sure you
yes.
guys have all seen the videos from Glenn Fricker on YouTube about not cupping the mic, and it's true. It's true. It does look sweet. I will back that forever. It looks cool, when the vocalist is just so into it. But just bring your hands back a little bit, because there's a little cardioid, in there that catches, and that's what gives the fullness of the sound into that microphone. When you do that, you cut off that frequency, and then you start sounding like you're in the drive-through. All right. So
can I get a pumpkin loaf?
I can't understand you when you're telling me about this band and this next song and how much this song means to you, and to make sure that there's a merch table in the back. Like, I can't hear
What's
you.
funny is, like, I can actually understand your articulation, probably because of what you did to your microphone that you're using right now.
Well,
but
yeah, I'm using a broadcast mic.
But a sound tech is not going to be trying to fix your audio real quick,
right?
When
Well,
you're
that mic's also directional, right?
So
this mic, I can go left and right and stuff like that, and it's still gonna pick it up.
Smooth moves there.
But, yeah, oh, thanks, man.
You're just like to the wave.
Yeah. Get my in sync on. But yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about that. Like,
absolutely,
just a clear and concise vocalist that can address the crowd, be cordial with your crowd. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for all vocalists out there, but just don't be rude. Your audience, like, be nice to your audience.
Absolutely.
Don't be,
they are your support.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be there if it weren't for them in some way, shape, or form.
No, thank them. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day
to check us out.
In a way,
absolutely.
Yeah, because in a way, it's a sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your pitch, right? You've got your merch table out. That's brings them in the door. Oh, okay, fourth teller. What? Sweet. They got some cool stuff. All right. They're shopping around. They see some other bands, we'll call them models, kind of like a car dealership. All right. So we got Deadwing there. Oh, sick. Madtown. Okay. Heard of them. They're really good. But yeah, let's check out this fourth teller, right? Fourth teller comes on stage. They're extremely cordial. They carry themselves nicely. You might have talked to the guitar player in the hallway. He was extremely nice to you.
He might have been at the coffee shop.
Might have been at the coffee shop, So, and then they get on stage and they play a balanced show. You can hear the bass player, you can hear both guitar players, you can hear the vocalist. That there's a merch table now, even if you didn't, because the vocalist told you. And he thanked you for coming out and told you about the songs and the lyrical content, possibly, but you could hear him over the guitars. And you walked away with a great experience. Their show was absolutely nuts. It was in tune, it was dynamic, and and they brought back that crazy breakdown and slowed it down.
I will never forget.
Right?
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Like, that stuff all plays a part in putting on a great show and a great performance.
Yes. Let's add on the next bullet that you actually have about remembering their performance, because you have a bonus point thing here that says, can we feel your performance? Is your emotion being conveyed? Like, it's one thing to say, like, it's angry, but it's like, angry because,
right?
Like, is that conveyed in some way, musically and lyrically?
I heard something. It was an interview that Finn McKenty did with the lead vocalist of Madball. Okay. And he said something about, when you go to a show, you are going and meeting in a location with a bunch of people that you may know or you may not know. And you don't know what they are feeling, why they're there. And usually the main reasons are you're happy, you're angry, you're anxious, you're sad. I mean, there are so many things, and music really is medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
People go to get the let out. They go to, they go to feel, right? Does your music, can I feel what you're feeling? If your song is angry but it's also sad, do I get that vibe from that song, right? Can I feel that passion that you're, you know, we all say that music is our passion. Are you leaving it all on the table for me here, right? Are you, for your audience, right? Are you giving them like this is your last show that you're ever going to play, you know? um I mean, yeah, I want to see the heart and the soul,
Yeah.
and giving it your all. And you know, we're looking, ultimately we're looking for quality performances, but we're not looking for virtuosos. I don't care if you can't play like John Petrucci or Steve Vai. Like, I don't care if you're not Neil Peart on the drums. I might get a lot of flack for this, but one of the best live bands I've seen was Green Day. Okay. I mean, they're a three-piece punk, well, I guess four-piece now, but they're a three-piece punk band, right? I mean, their songs are easy to play. As a guitar player, those are the first songs you learn, you know?
Sometimes.
But
yeah.
they're so cohesive, right? Everything, you can feel that emotion, you can feel the dynamics in the song, even though it's supposed to be just punk, right? Punk is supposed to be like, well, if you can't play metal, you play punk, right? So I mean, some of those bands are absolutely incredible.
Definitely.
You don't have to be the next virtuoso, just got to be tight. Your band's got to be tight.
Definitely. And I would also say, from a stage presence perspective, sometimes you can see passion that's there. And I mean, some people like really play it up and stage it, and it's dramatic, and it that has its place too.
And it definitely has its place. We all know the in motion, like the Running Man, right? Like the attack, asking Alexandria stuff, like, where you're running in place and playing guitar, and the crab core and stuff. I mean, there's a place for all of that. I love it. But
yes. And I think sometimes, like, you might even be able to see a really good performance in like hip hop or rap with the feelings that are in it, and being able to like see how they're moving their bodies, their eyesight, their hand gestures, everything sometimes really pours into all of that.
Oh, but yeah, definitely. Actually, I think a lot of the more modern hip hop and stuff like that, I know it gets a lot of flack and some people don't like it, but I do find there is a lot more emotion in it, especially with like some of the emo rap stuff. It's almost like today's like pop punk in a way, which is kind of cool. So, but yeah, you can feel it. Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to have the craziest gear in the world. You don't have to, just,
it's true.
Do your songs make sense?
Yep.
Is your band tight, cohesive, and entertaining?
Absolutely. So wrapping it up then, what are some things that you would say a band can do starting today that could really potentially just make them step right up? Like, is there anything they should consider buying? Is there anything, if they can, like, because we all know that like you can get really expensive gear and like really top notch what you can do, but you still have to be able to use
gear
those
that's amazing
things
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say are some things that maybe people should consider getting?
So I think, well, Christmas is already passed, but I would say if you haven't gotten your drummer a Christmas present yet, get him a metronome.
Yes.
Get your bass player a metronome too while you're at it.
It'll be their least enjoyed gift, but most helpful.
And if you have the means to do so, buy them a Dr. Beat. Then they'll really love you.
There you go.
But
I think maybe like the Polytuner pedal, right?
I think a Polytune for a guitar player is amazing. That could be your first pedal. Okay, it's really easy to use. and it kind of just gives that stage, that stage show just a little bit of a bump, because now while you're tuning, it's silent, right?
Yep.
Because it's got true bypass.
Otherwise, what was the other thing called? Isn't it called a snark?
Yeah, that's the snark, like the clip-on tuner, so
if you can't get like a polytune pedal, which I think you could usually get those used, if I remember correctly, it was like right around,
I think mine was
40,
like yeah, for the
50?
I think the mini is, let me see, I'm gonna go on Reverb real quick.
Yeah, so some of these things aren't that terribly expensive, and it could really help amplify what you're doing, which is hilarious because we're talking about bypass. I didn't mean it that way, but it can really like
the
step up your
full-size pedal
game.
is $89 on Amazon. The Polytune Mini.
While you're looking that up,
Polytune Mini is like 50.
Okay. So something that helped us tremendously when we were on the road and helped our sound techs a lot is, so we did end up going with wireless in-ears. It's a lot more expensive to go that route. However, you can control exactly what each person is listening to.
Yes.
And so everyone has differences in what they need to hear. So you can alter that if you get the right stuff, which we did. And also, since it's in-ears, you don't need monitors. So you literally tell the sound tech, don't worry about it. No monitors. It immediately makes their life easier because now they don't have to worry about that. Now, I understand it's expensive, and I'm not saying you have to do it in order to do whatever. I'm just saying, like, that is something to consider. If you're trying to take it serious, that is a helpful thing to have, and it would definitely.
I think there's a certain level that you hit where that becomes feasible, right? Where it's like,
right.
Okay, yeah, we should probably get these, in the modern era of music, that is so, it's important. It is important. Yep. I wouldn't necessarily say a necessity, but it fucking helps, but starting out in a local band, guitar players, I would say a decent sounding cab and an amp. Okay. And they can be had for very, very cheap now. There's a lot of good gear that's come out over the course of the past 30 years that, it might not be a Kemper, it might not be the Helix, it might not be an Axe FX or anything crazy digital with 150 different amps and cab impulses and all the effects you could ever ask for. But you know what? If you're just playing hardcore or metal or something where you don't need a lot of effects, I mean, go out and just pick yourself up. There's I believe it's by Joyo, the Joyo Zombie, or even like I had one of those orange micro darks. It's not the loudest amp in the world, but I mean, I've hooked that thing to a 4x12 before, and it's still, I mean, you can still hear it over the drummer. And I mean, if your cap's mic'd up and you're playing clubs, I mean, you're fine,
Right, exactly.
So
yeah, figuring out what the needs are for what your style is.
I mean, shit, my current rig right now, I am running a Randall Diavolo 45, tube head, which I think was about $600 brand new, and then the cabinet I bought used, it's a Carvin Steve Vai Legacy, but it's got, the reason I bought it is it's got Celestion Vintage 30s in it. Okay. Which is like, the speaker, right? For heavy music, right?
There you go.
So, and I think I only paid $200 for it. So I figure $800. I mean, I would start there before going to upgrade your guitars. Okay.
And you can find these things sometimes on Craigslist or on Facebook groups or something like that. You don't have to buy it brand new.
Right. Oh yeah. Reverb's great for it. But yeah, Facebook Marketplace is huge. You could find some stuff that, and just do some research too. Find out what your favorite artist was using, just look around, and watch. I mean, YouTube's, breeding ground for gear review. You could find just about anything from probably even the past 50 years.
Yep.
That's been demoed and demoed again, and you can find out what you like. So because there's a lot of hidden gems out there that are not as expensive as you think, you know. So trying to think of
Absolutely.
anything else as far as like
For
stuff to
stage
for
volume and stuff.
purchase. Guitar strings, change your strings,
Oh, please.
and especially when coming into the studio. Oh, I can't say it enough. Fresh strings always. It's
I think when we recorded, we did fresh strings each day because by the end of 8 hours, it's
oh
it's
yeah.
toast. Now, I mean, super up there bands sometimes change their strings every show, which I did not do that because I'm just like, I'm playing for like 30 minutes a day. I have several
Yeah.
hours worth of life on these strings before it's going to have a real loss of tone. So I pretty much waited like a week and then I would change them or something like
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's fair. I mean,
And that
yeah,
adds
when
up,
you're in the
unfortunately. But
studio, it's a little bit different. Like when you're
yeah,
in the studio, of course, you want to be fresh all the time because you are capturing the best performance. Like this is the
right.
performance of all performances. This is,
Yep.
you know, so of course you want to have fresh strings no matter what. But yeah, when you're playing, like when you're on tour and stuff like that, and you're a local band trying to make it, and um, I mean, use your ear. Things start sounding a little wonky, and you're like, "Oh, these strings sound kind of dead." Probably change them. You know,
Yeah,
so
at that point, definitely.
yeah.
So actually, before we go, real quick, what are some things that you think bands should be aware of before they go into a recording studio? Because I'm assuming that a lot of them that are listening may not have even had that, or they've only gone to maybe one
Yeah,
recording studio.
of course. So, this is learn from my past mistakes as well. So, first time I walked into a recording studio, oh man, I broke all the cardinal rules. I walked in with old strings. My guitars were not ready to go, and it was a bad time. I think one of my input jacks was messed up too. Like
Oh
you know,
no, was it
I was
crackling?
I was 18 years old.
Jeez.
But yeah, I mean it just was not good. Now I guess for the biggest thing, of course, is of taking care of your instruments, making sure they're ready to go. Okay. Um, so fresh strings, um, fresh strings, fresh sticks, making sure everything on your guitar works. Okay. Um,
Absolutely.
everything on your amp works. You don't have any blown tubes. You don't have, electrical issues if you're running solid state or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, making sure your guitar is set up properly so it's intonated. Okay. Um, that's another thing for preparing for a stage and studio. Get your guitars intonated. Find a local luthier, give him a call. Hey, I'd like my guitar intonated. He's going to ask you what tuning you play in or what tuning the guitar will typically stay in. And then your, of course, your string gauge that you typically use. And they will set your guitar up and intonate it so that way when you go to play like an open versus an octave on the 12th fret or the 24th fret, all of those are all completely in tune. On a
Yes,
guitar that's
that's
not set
important.
up, you'll play the upper frets and they tend to be sharp or they tend to be flat or something like that. Um, so it's definitely worth it. It's about $100 usually, somewhere around there, depending on who you go to. Um, so, and if you know how to do it for yourself, even better, and call me.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah,
I'm
we
just
never did
kidding. I
that
love my
ourselves. We
luthiers.
always gave someone else to do it.
Yep.
Like,
Love my luthiers, man. They know
by
what
all
they're
means,
doing.
for
It's
sure.
very easy to fuck up a guitar neck. Um, so yeah, just having your instruments ready, know your parts. I cannot stress that enough. Maybe during like pre-production and stuff, which spoiler alert, grand prize winner gets pre-production with me too. So,
All right.
when you're writing, I get it. Like, of course, we're not going to have everything written, but have an idea coming in. If you're working with a producer, maybe try to send them the ideas too. Like if you can record them in any way, it doesn't have to be amazing, Just some type of clear recording. Go, hey, this is this riff idea that I have, or this is a demo of what we're playing. Usually for like pre-production and stuff, I like to have that when you're going in for a final recording to get ready to mix. Drummers, know your parts. Bass players, know your parts. Guitar players, know your parts, right? So that way we can come in, we can get to work. You already know what you're playing. All right.
Yep.
Usually in the studio, it's my preference to have the best guitar player record the guitars. Okay. Of course,
even if it's multiple parts.
Yeah. Just because there's going to be discrepancies in how, like, let's take Fourth Teller for example. There's going to be discrepancies on how you play a riff versus how Justin plays a riff. Okay.
Right.
And so you have these little adjustments that you might have to make. So if you want like a really tight chug and a breakdown or something, it's a lot harder to edit. You can still do it. I mean, you can definitely still do it, but it is a little bit more difficult and not as clean as if he were to just play both the left and the right.
Right.
And so
I think that's what we ended up doing.
You could at least do it like that, to where if like you're a lead, you only play lead. Rhythm plays all the rhythm stuff. Even if you guys switch off and on. So
I think there were certain parts that there's two rhythms going on, and so I typically did whatever I did, he did what he did. But whenever there was regular just rhythm, he would do all of that, Justin would, and then I would just do the leads on those parts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yep, it helps with cleanliness in the mix. Right. Yeah, and definitely be used to playing to a click as well. That
oh
goes
my
for
gosh,
all
yes.
the musicians. Yep. I mean, especially the drummers, of course, but the all the musicians, you need to be able to play to a click. I'm trying to think of anything else. Vocalists, make sure you come in prepared. Don't go out for a night of drinking before you come in, because alcohol is going to mess up your throat.
Yep. Instead, drink LaCroix.
I would stay away from carbonated. I would try to stick to tea, honey, stuff like that. I mean, nothing. Don't like coat the hell out of your esophagus with honey, but I mean, a little
just
bit.
Chug a whole thing of honey.
Yeah. All right. Water. Take care of your body, because your body's your instrument.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to think of anything else. Have your harmonies written, vocalists. If you have vocal harmonies, at least have an idea of where your harmonies are going to go. Try to write them out yourself.
Definitely.
So I know you can definitely do the more new school trick of just pitch correcting everything and making like an artificial harmony. But I still think that there's something to be said about the real thing. So there's definitely that. And
that's about it. No,
I mean, yeah, just
I'm sure there's more, but
I mean, at the end of the day, just be a professional,
as much as possible.
Yep. Be nice to your producer. Be nice to your sound guy, tip your sound guy, tip your bartender. And be nice to your fans, So
everybody.
they're the whole reason, one of the huge reasons why you do what you do.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Shawn, I really appreciate you coming on here and helping share some light with your experiences and then my experiences as well. And I'm excited for all these events coming up, and we'll be posting some more soon about Slay the Bay, and we're going to be posting some more podcasts about it and everything. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with you, and judging people, not in that way, but
hardcore judging people.
Yes, we always we say
people
quit judging and then we're judging.
Literal form.
Oh my gosh. But yeah,
it'll be a good time. I'm excited to see all these new bands, and
yes,
it's going to be really cool. I'm really, really stoked about it. So
if you are listening and you are in the Florida area, January, February, it's all on Saturdays. If you're able to come out to any of the shows, I'm sure you're not going to be disappointed, because everyone's going to be on their best behavior. Which I would argue every band should be on their best behavior every show, that every band should treat every show with this much of like almost as if they're going to win something. But like basically it's just if you're trying to pursue this as a career, or you're trying to get better or go to touring, just treat it professionally, do your best, not to
I
like
can
smother other
guarantee
people
you,
down, but just go.
if you come into this acting, like if you come into this acting and like and having the determination that you're gonna win, I can promise you you're gonna have a good experience whether you do one or you don't.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
that is, I mean, this is literally, it's literally free marketing for your band in a way. I mean, yeah, you got the registration fee and stuff like that, but you know, you're gonna be in front of a lot of people, you know,
Absolutely.
doing what you do best, so um I'm really excited about it because it's definitely been a minute, with COVID and everything.
For
Of
sure.
course we didn't have any shows, and it's really nice to be able to see, bands that I've already seen before, as well as some new faces as well. I'm excited to meet everybody and see what you're bringing to the table. And
For sure.
we are judgment free when it comes to genres over here, brother.
Absolutely. No bias on that.
I just want to hear some good tunes, no matter what it is.
Definitely respect. But yeah, everybody, thanks again for listening. And again, if you want to find out more information about this, it's convictedprinting.com/slay the bay, and where you should be posting a lot more about that in the weeks to come and the days to come too, because the first event is going to be January 15th at the Noise Box in Brandon, Florida. So if you're in Florida, please come out. We'd love to have you. And Shawn, thanks again so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great to be on. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Bye, everybody.